What's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another player interview. This time we've got a fan favorite of the channel. We've got Josh, the creator of the Broly Player Facebook group, here to give us his updated OG Broly deck. This is not the guy that you see normally in the meta scene where you're seeing Broly BR, but we are seeing the OG Green Broly today. Josh is a dedicated fan to this deck, and I always like getting his updated builds because it just shows like dedication to one particular archetype, and it's a really unique deck to see for people who want to try something different. So Josh, how you doing tonight? And give us maybe like a brief overview, because this deck is so different than the last time we had you on the channel. So we'll talk through all the card choices individually, but how have you been liking the deck so far?
Hey, glad to be back. Overall, for this deck, I really like it. I think the biggest overall change from my previous lists going into this one is the dropping of veggies entirely. So there's no more Kaba, no cauliflower, and no kale. And in their place, I have that quote-unquote really bad Paragus from the anniversary box and the piercing package, which is that new Gohan 4-drop, and the 7-drop, which is absolutely disgusting now that you can get it on turn 4.
Yeah, and the fact that the ruling got updated for this to be an actual board clear when you play it. And as far as I know from a previous interview I did, when it gets removed from the board as well, that auto still lingers. So that's just absolutely insane.
It's absolutely nuts. And I didn't actually realize this until yesterday when a friend pointed it out. Gohan doesn't KO everything. He makes them leave the battle area. So if there are effects on your opponent's cards that when this card is KO'd do this, like that Zarbon from Clash of Fates, or the upcoming Caulifla Kale from set 7 that say they can't be KO'd, Piercing Gohan goes around that. So I'm really looking forward to the future of this deck in that meta.
Yeah, as the game progresses, and we probably will get more like what's called floating effects. For those of you that don't know, floating effects is basically when a card is destroyed or KO'd, do X. A card like Gohan that sends them instead of KOs them, that misses triggering those effects, that's a super invaluable card. So really good thing to know, and I think it's going to be really powerful as the game goes on. So we'll get right into the main deck, talk about a lot of the different choices here. So right off the bat, a really interesting one is the Awakened Warrior Bardock. So out of all the Overwhelm you could play, why this one?
You know, I have like a soft spot for this. A good friend of mine, a local guy, Chris Bakari, he's always put 2 of this card in every deck, and I'm like, why not like Dimensional Banisher Fu? Why not Scientist Fu? Like one of those. And he convinced me to try it out in this, and I'm actually really happy that I took his advice, because if you take into account again the Piercing Gohan 7-drops floats that the opponent virtually can't combo, that means I can tap out on turn 4 with the 4-drop, play the Piercing, that's 1 double strike. The Awakened Warrior Bardock is another free, quote-unquote, double strike that they virtually can't combo. And then you use the leader, drop the Gohan, trigger the Secret Rare Broly. That's 2 more double strikes. So just on the virtue of being a free double strike with the Piercing package is why I tried it, and it's super consistent.
That's pretty sick, to be honest. And I love seeing this Broly SCR being used outside of the Broly BR decks, because I just did an interview the other day with another player who was playing Chilai with the Piercing package, and it's just like, it's so sick to see this SCR getting more and more play. And I love that play with the Awakened Warrior Bardock for just that turn 4 pressure. It's absolutely nuts. So next we got the 4 Shocking Death Ball. This is super obvious, but I do have a question. This deck, I'm not sure how much you've experimented with it yet, but this deck seems like it's going to change a ton when set 7 comes out, because you have all the new red OG Broly support. So I keep thinking about these new negates that are coming out, that they basically let you get a second usage out of them in the drop area. So I'm wondering what you think about those, and if those could replace the sparking negates.
They very well could, depending how the meta forms, but off the cuff, I think I'm going to keep the Shocking Death Ball, because it can hit 2-drops, and the new green negate can only hit once. And the fact that I can tap out and negate with the Sparking 5, you can't do that with the new one.
Right.
So I think Shocking Death Ball is a safer play going into set 7. So for now, I'm going to keep that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the sparking is better because it gives you more flexibility. I do think they're pretty much overall better than the new negates coming out. But like you said, it definitely depends how the format shapes up. So we got the 4 Broly Dawn of the Rampage. This is absolutely insane that it can search your SCR like pretty consistently. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the newfound Power Sun Gohan. So I remember last time that we went over your deck, we talked a lot about this versus the 1-drop Frieza. So what made you come to this card instead of the Frieza?
Solely the fact that Crisis Crusher isn't really played a lot in my local meta. If it was, it'd be super easy to swap the Gohan into the Frieza. If your meta differs and you wanted to give this deck a shot, you could easily swap it for Frieza and it'd be near negligible.
Gotcha. Yeah. So if you're not worried about Crisis, that crit is super valuable, especially in like more of a resource control deck. So I definitely can agree with that. Then we have the 4 Broly's ring with the 4 new Paragus coming out of the anniversary box. I'm going to give us a quick read for anyone who hasn't seen this yet. So this is a 2-drop, double green, 10k battle card. Permanent cards in your battle area cannot be placed in their owner's drop areas by your skills. And when you play this card, draw 1. So you get that cantrip right off the top. And then I'm going to actually give Broly's ring a quick read. So Broly's ring protects your hand, and the new 2-drop Paragus protects the board. So I know you talked a little bit about this where you were debating on the new Paragus versus Caulifla because Caulifla is a bigger beater. She self-awakens. But I know you like the draw of Paragus. So where are you kind of in that mental debate?
As of right now, I'm going to stick with Paragus because, again, the draw is it's better for seeing your pieces like your piercing package and the SCR. And also, I play a lot of Yellow Dende. So they will Clan of Terror Mecha Frieza me, and if I have a Caulifla in hand, they're going to play it and make me take a life, and that could bring me down from 3-2 or 2-1, and then I'm screwed.
Right.
So Paragus is a safer play against that matchup.
Gotcha. I like the reasoning. And then we have the Defending Father Paragus, the wrong dad to this Broly, but it is absolutely an insane super combo. It just naturally buffs all green decks by like an insane amount. So next up, we have Broly Everlasting Vengeance. So another new card. I'm going to give it a quick read for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's a 2-drop, 15k, double green. Activate main for 2 green. If your leader card is green, play this card from your drop area. So first off, I love how it's not only restricted to Broly leaders, but I do like how it's kept in green because it gives green a very powerful recursion effect. So how has this card been treating you in terms of like, it is just like a really good evolve target? It's just consistently getting you a Broly on board. And another question, have you ever considered playing Healing Pod in this deck with this card?
Great question. Broly Everlasting Vengeance is really useful if I don't happen to open up with Broly's Ring, which, you know, as everybody's aware in the game now, that definitely can happen. It used to be detrimental, but now not quite so. Because like turn 2, if I don't have Ring, I can still swing with Broly and then just put Everlasting Vengeance in my drop area and then pay 2 and put him back in the board. So I'm not really negging in that way. And as you said, it's also another evolve target for Deathless Warrior Broly and Broly the Supreme Berserker. As for the Frieza's Army Healing Pod, I feel like Ring is still the better call with this leader, but Healing Pod in the Black Promo Broly leader is absolutely insane. The Pod Warrior archetype, because you get the card draw off of Pod when you play the Bio Warriors again, and then you can sacrifice it with a Paragus promo, draw another card, put it back on the board. Pod's a better pick for that leader, not necessarily this one.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a little bit more explosive, where this is a little bit more control-y. Definitely makes sense. So then we have some of the OG Broly package with Endless Evolution and Deathless Warrior. But now what's really interesting to me is that you are playing 4 of the new 7-drop from set 5 or set 6? Set 6, sorry. Yeah, so this is the new guy. He's replacing the OG 6-drop Broly. So has this guy really been like just way better than the 6-drop or what?
I wouldn't say way better. I would say marginally better, very marginally. His biggest advantage is that he's a 7-drop, so he's another potential target for the Secret Rare to come out and mess people up.
Right.
And the fact that he's just a barrier critical body is nice. The Burst 5 is really heavy, honestly. I mean, I feel like that the Bandai could have lowered that burst. But there have been occasions where I will be able to snipe their only negate or their only super combo. Online, I've sniped like victory strikes before. Like it's nutty, it's fun in certain matchups, but it's by no means necessary. It's not my priority on turn 4, turn 5. That's usually the piercing package, but it's nice to have. It's a Broly deck. You can have Broly.
Gotcha. So, are there any kinds of like situations off the top of your head where you would go for this instead of the piercing package?
If their hand is small enough, because like the piercing package is better for when their hand is really big,
Mm,
because then you can pretty much guarantee that it's either filled with extra cards or cards they can't combo with. But with a smaller hand size, I prefer to do Supreme Berserker because you know in that small hand, there's that one card that is going to make or break the game, and that's the one you need to get rid of. Whether it's a Bad Ring Laser, whether it's Victory Strike, their one Flying Nimbus, it's those clutch situations that 7-drop Broly is better.
gotcha. So, and then we have, of course, the piercing package and the Broly SCR to round it off. We all pretty much know how powerful these cards are. The Broly SCR, we've been seeing tons of it in the meta. And then the piercing package, a lot of people know this is super powerful. We mentioned the ruling updates that got announced with it, so super strong. What's really interesting here is the side deck. So I think it's a pretty unusual sideboard, but the reasoning that Josh gave me earlier, it makes perfect sense. So Josh, I'll let you go through the sideboard and explain your choices.
Yeah, sure. The one deck that I have a problem with this deck and in just the meta in general is the yellow Broly. Here we go, another complaining video. The Path to Greatness, Height Mastery, Victory Strike Broly deck. So I built this sideboard specifically to counter that one deck because green, I feel, is the color that suffers against that specific archetype the most. Versus like red has like after image technique, and then blue has like Mafuba and all that other untapping. But him being a draw 2 leader versus an untap 2, and him being green, he got kind of screwed. So this sideboard is solely for that matchup. I will take the higher end Brolys and just put this entire engine in the preemptive strike for the Path to Greatness. And then if I can't get that, then the Persistent Assault Krillin into the 5-drop Goku just to take out the Height of Mastery.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And what's really cool about this, I keep thinking about green decks in this format, and I really don't think that yellow Broly players are side decking the Striving Vegeta to answer this card. So it seems like a really good way to catch some Height of Mastery players off guard. I like that a lot. And then Predator Strike is really, really good against Path to Greatness as well. And by turn 2, turn 3, it is pretty hard for the Broly players to get that 3 in the drop for Killy Zone. So I do like that a lot. I think the sideboard's really, really well teched out. And then Double Impact Krillin, of course, is for Mercenary Tau because you are playing somewhat of a hand control deck. So anything else you want to say about that?
No, I was just going to say, yep, Tau completely wrecks this deck. If Tau's on the board and I don't have Krillin, I basically cannot swing with my leader at all. And that is terrible considering when you play OG Broly leader, that's like the leader is the reason you play it. Because that Awakened side with Ring and Paragus generates a ton of value.
Absolutely. So the deck overall, I love it. I think it's super interesting. I love how much of a change it's made since the last time we've had you on the channel. Now, I do want to ask you about your thoughts on the Set 7 Broly stuff. Have you started tinkering with it? What are your initial thoughts on it? Things like that.
Yeah, my friend Jay and I have been tinkering back and forth between a red-green build with the upcoming red leader. Me personally, I'm holding out for the Infinite Saiyan Rare, I think it's called, the Super Saiyan 3 Broly that's getting previewed in a couple weeks, because Bandai has said that that's solely for mono green, which this deck is. So I want to see how good that card is before I jump ship to dual color.
Gotcha, yeah. And that red leader is really interesting, how it kind of has an activate battle to pop things, like kind of like Broly BR does, but it only pops 10Ks or less. But Broly's ring kind of protects that, and it's gonna be a really interesting thing for sure. But I think the mono green is definitely a more control-y build. I think the red is gonna be, I don't know, the red seems to do a little bit more burning, a little bit more I don't know, just dropping big beaters as opposed to more of that control. So if you're a more control player, I think mono green's gonna be the way to go versus the big flashy burn. I think that like red green or more like mono red's gonna be the way to go. But Josh, any final thoughts you want to give on the deck? Any shout outs you want to give?
Shout outs I want to give to Jay Miller, Chris Bakari, and Chris Faragee, my 3 buddies who I talked to the most about this deck and helped me play test it against a bunch of other stuff. And Kevin Carnigan, also, him and Jay play on Untap with me a lot and helped me refine this deck. And as far as the last words in general, don't be afraid to play trash leaders, trash in air quotes. Just have fun, especially since the new set is coming out in like a month. Take this time, stop going on the forums and or the Facebook group and complaining about Height of Mastery and minus Killing Zone. Just go play some jank and have some fun before that set drops.
Yeah, dude, definitely. I definitely agree because right before set 7, we're supposed to get some ban list updates. And honestly, even though this format has some really, really strong decks like Shenjita and Broly Head of Mastery, I think that you will benefit a lot from playing decks you're very comfortable with. So if you're playing a quote-unquote jank deck and you're very comfortable with it, I think that'll pay dividends. So Josh, thank you again for joining us, and we will see you guys next time.